It's the Studebaker. Yeah, the one with the little doggy in the window that goes.
This upbringing, marked by poverty, neglect, and the constant presence of addiction, could have easily broken someone. But for Carol, it seemed to instill a mix of insecurity and immense resolve. She became the class clown, using humor as both a shield and a way to connect. The joy she created on screen wasn't born from a life of ease, but was a deliberate, hard-won victory over deep personal pain. It was a resilience forged in the toughest of circumstances, a strength she would need to draw upon again and again. While Carol Burnett had built a fortress of laughter to entertain the world, no amount of fame could shield her from the most shattering heartbreak a parent can endure, the loss of a child. The story of her eldest daughter, Carrie Hamilton, is a central, tragic chapter in Carol's life, one that tested her spirit in ways her difficult childhood never could. Carrie Louise Hamilton was born on December 5, 1963, the first of three daughters from Carol's marriage to television producer Joe Hamilton. Growing up as Carol Burnett's daughter wasn't easy. At the tender age of 13, Carrie began struggling with drug and alcohol abuse. For years, Carol's life was a living hell as she watched her daughter spiral. The battle was agonizing. Carol eventually made the gut-wrenching decision to put her daughter into rehab for a third time. She got sober when she was 17, Burnett told People. I put her in a third rehab place, and oh my God, she hated me. I came to the conclusion that I had to love her enough to let her hate me. The experience dredged up all the old feelings of helplessness from her own childhood. Miraculously, Carrie did get sober. The mother and daughter, whose relationship had been severely strained, reconciled and became incredibly close. Carrie blossomed into a talented actress, singer, and writer, with roles in shows like Fame and The X-Files. They even collaborated on adapting Carol's memoir into a stage play called Hollywood Arms. It seemed the worst was behind them. But in the summer of 2001, a new, more terrifying battle began. Carrie was diagnosed with lung cancer that soon spread to her brain. On January 20, 2002, Carrie Hamilton died from complications of her illness. She was only 38 years old. The loss was unthinkable. When Carrie died, I didn't want to get out of bed for a while, she recalled. The play they had written together was scheduled to open in Chicago just months after Carrie's death. In her grief, Carol wanted to call it off, but her husband, Brian Miller, encouraged her to see it through for Carrie's sake, summoning a strength she didn't know she had, Carol went on. The pain of losing Carrie has never left her. You don't get over it, but you cope, she has said. I think of her every day. She never leaves me. I just feel her. This tragedy was compounded by further family struggles. Carol's youngest daughter, Erin, also battled substance abuse issues. In 2020, in a move that brought their private pain into the public, Carol and her husband petitioned for and were granted temporary guardianship of their teenage grandson, Dylan, to provide him with stability. It was another heart-wrenching chapter, another instance of Carol stepping in to protect her family from the devastating consequences of addiction. As Carol Burnett entered her 9th decade, the world continued to celebrate her as an ageless icon. Recent roles in shows like Better Call Saul, Apple TV Plus' Palm Royale, and a cameo in Hacks showcased a talent that hadn't diminished one bit. On her 90th birthday in 2023, she joked with reporters, I've got all my parts, got my hips, I got my knees, and I've got my brain, so I'm happy about that. She celebrated her 92nd birthday on April 26, 2025, surrounded by loving tributes from friends and fans. But behind this remarkable vitality, the inevitable weight of the years presents its own quiet struggles. At 92, she navigates the natural challenges of her age with the same grace that has defined her life. While she remains a fighter, she has understandably become more private, choosing to spend her time in more intimate settings. The grand stages have been replaced by quiet evenings at home in Los Angeles with her devoted husband, musician Brian Miller, who is her rock and constant support. She finds joy in simple moments, like hosting game nights and tea parties for a close circle of friends that includes fellow legend Julie Andrews. Despite any limitations, her spirit refuses to be dimmed. She continues to find purpose in her work. In 2024, her performance in Palm Royale earned rave reviews, with critics marveling at her talent. Her desire to work isn't driven by necessity, but by passion. As she told an interviewer, "As long as I have fun, and that's what I want to work." She has also expressed interest in writing and producing a new series for Apple TV Plus based on her early years in New York. For now, Carol Burnett is managing her health with grace, relying on her own unshakable spirit to stay grounded. She is a woman who has endured poverty, family addiction, and the unspeakable loss of a child. The physical challenges of today are just one more chapter she is facing with a resilience that proves her strength extends far beyond the stage. Carol Burnett's story isn't just one of laughter, it's one of profound and unwavering strength. It's the story of a little girl in a one-room apartment who dreamed of being in the movies and made it happen. It's the story of a trailblazing woman who kicked down doors in a man's world to become a television legend. And it's the story of a mother who endured the unimaginable and still found a way to face each new day with grace. She once said she wanted her legacy to be that she made people laugh, made them feel good when they might have been down. She has done that and so much more. She has shown us what it means to be resilient. She has shown us that behind the brightest smiles can be the deepest sorrows, and that true strength isn't the absence of pain, but the courage to continue in spite of it. At 92, she is still fighting, still inspiring, and still in our hearts. Her health may be challenged by age, but her spirit, the brilliant, funny, and deeply kind soul that America fell in love with all those years ago, shines as brightly as ever. The laughter she gave us was a gift, but the lesson of her resilience is her true, enduring legacy. If Carol Burnett has ever made you laugh, please share your favorite Carol Burnett moment in the comments to help us honor this living legend. I'm so glad we had this time together. For over 6 decades, one woman has been America's undisputed queen of comedy. A flash of that mischievous grin, a tug of an earlobe, and generations of families would gather around the TV, ready to laugh until they cried. Carol Burnett. The name itself is synonymous with joy, with brilliant slapstick and heartwarming humor that changed the face of television. She was a true trailblazer, the first woman to host a major primetime comedy variety show, kicking the door wide open for every female comedian who followed. Her program, The Carol Burnett Show, wasn't just a hit. It was a cultural institution, a weekly appointment for millions that won 25 Emmy Awards and became one of the most honored shows in TV history. She was the star who made us feel good, the familiar friend who brought light into our living rooms. In her fan mail, people often told her that her show was the only time their family would get together to laugh, a beacon of light when they were feeling down. But while her smile lit up our screens, behind the curtain, Carol Burnett was surviving a series of silent heartbreaks. What if the world's funniest woman was quietly enduring a grief no stage could ever hold? Now, at 92 years old, the weight of what she's endured and the quiet sorrow she has carried is more poignant than ever. This is the story of the unimaginable pain hidden behind one of the world's most famous smiles, and the incredible resilience that defines the real Carol Burnett. To understand the depth of Carol Burnett's strength, you first have to grasp the sheer magnitude of her success. She wasn't just a star, she was a supernova in a television universe dominated by men. Born in San Antonio, Texas on April 26, 1933, her beginnings were anything but glamorous. But from the humblest of origins, a comedic genius was waiting to be discovered. After moving to Hollywood as a child, she was raised by her grandmother, Nanny, in a small studio apartment, living on welfare just a stone's throw from the movie studios that fueled her dreams. The movies were her escape, a place where she saw happy people singing and dancing, a world away from her own tough reality. This early love for performance sparked a fire within her. She attended UCLA initially to study journalism, but the pull of the theater was too strong. It was there, during a performance at a private party, that her life changed forever. A businessman in the audience, moved by her talent, offered her a $1,000 interest-free loan to get to New York City. The conditions were simple: pay it back, in 5 years never reveal his name, and if she made it, help others achieve their dreams. Carol more than held up her end of the bargain. New York is where her career exploded. She became a breakout star on Broadway in the 1959 musical Once Upon a Mattress, earning a Tony Award nomination for her performance. That success catapulted her onto television, where she became a regular on The Gary Moore Show. Her loud, sloppy, yet brilliant style of slapstick comedy made her an instant favorite with American audiences, earning her her first Emmy Award in 1962. But that was just the prelude. In 1967, CBS offered her a sitcom, but Carol had a different idea. A clause in her contract gave her the right to push the button and create her own one-hour variety show. At a time when the format was fading, network execs were skeptical. They told her, "Carol, variety is a man's game. It's Sid Caesar, it's Milton Berle, it's Jackie Gleason." They tried to push a sitcom called Here's Agnes instead. But Carol, with her trademark determination, pushed the button anyway. The result was The Carol Burnett Show. For 11 seasons, from 1967 to 1978, the show was a ratings powerhouse. With a dream team of co-stars including Harvey Korman, Vicki Lawrence, and the incomparable Tim Conway, Carol created a playground of comedic brilliance. From the iconic Went with the Wind sketch to the recurring family sketches that later spun off into Mama's Family, the show was a masterclass in comedy. It was a unique blend of movie parodies, character pieces, and big musical numbers, all held together by Carol's fearless physicality and genuine warmth. Each show famously began with a Q&A with the audience, where Carol's quick wit and off-the-cuff humor shone. It was unscripted, real, and forged an unbreakable bond with her viewers. She ended every show with her signature phrase, "I'm so glad we had this time together," and a gentle tug of her earlobe, a secret message to the grandmother who had raised her. Her influence is staggering. She's received a host of the world's most prestigious awards: 7 Golden Globes, a Grammy, multiple Emmys, a special Tony Award, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor. In 2013, she was awarded the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor. Fittingly, the Golden Globes created a Lifetime Achievement Award for television in her name, the Carol Burnett Award, and she was its very first recipient in 2019. She was, and is, a living legend. But what the world saw on screen was only half the story. While she was making an entire country laugh, she was navigating a private life marked by a depth of pain few could imagine, behind the curtain of laughter and the bright lights of the stage. Carol Burnett's life was shaped by a profound sorrow that began long before she ever stepped into the spotlight. The sunny disposition she shared with the world was forged in the fires of a deeply troubled childhood, a reality that was a world away from the Hollywood glamour she lived so close to. Born during the Great Depression, Carol's earliest years were defined by instability. Her parents, Ina Louise and Joseph Jody Burnett, were both charming and good-looking, but they also both struggled with severe alcoholism. They had moved to Los Angeles with dreams of making it big, but their addiction became an insurmountable obstacle. Eventually, her parents' marriage dissolved, leaving a young Carol in the care of her maternal grandmother, Mabel, whom she called Nanny. Carol and Nanny lived in a cramped one-room apartment in a boarding house in a poor part of Hollywood. Her mother lived just down the hall, but the emotional distance felt like miles. Life was a constant struggle. Finances were so tight that they lived on welfare, and Carol later remembered how they would sometimes take rolls of toilet paper from movie theaters because they couldn't afford to buy their own. In her memoir. 1. More time. Carol painted a picture of a childhood steeped in want, but also one where her grandmother provided an anchor of love and security. "Nanny was my rock," she said. It was Nanny who scraped together what little money they had to take Carol to the movies each week, an indulgence that became her lifeline and ignited her passion for performing. But the shadow of her parents' alcoholism was always there. As a child, she felt the weight of their disease, often blaming herself and feeling a desperate need to fix them. She eventually came to the heartbreaking realization that it was beyond her control. "I thought they could quit if they wanted to," she recalled. "You can't fix it." This painful lesson, learned so young, became a recurring theme in her life. Her advice to children of alcoholic parents was always the same. First of all, it's not your fault. Her mother, who harbored her own unfulfilled ambitions, was often critical of Carol's dreams, telling her, "You can always write, no matter what you look like." In her memoir, Carol confessed how deeply those words stung. Tragically, both of Carol's parents died young, their lives cut short by the disease that had defined them.